The arrogant arrival, the morning sun cast long shadows across the Global Defense Command Center when the first reports came in. Captain Sarah Chen stood before the massive holographic display, watching as dozens of red dots materialized at the edge of Earth's solar system. Each dot represented a ship larger than anything humanity had ever built. "Contact established, Captain," reported Lieutenant Torres from the communications station. His voice carried a tremor that he couldn't quite hide. "They single quotes They're demanding to speak with our leaders." Sarah nodded grimly. After 15 years of service, she had seen humanity face many challenges, but nothing like this. The aliens had appeared without warning, their massive fleet emerging from what seemed like empty space. Their ships were works of art and terror combined, sleek vessels that seemed to bend light around them within hours. Every major government had representatives in the command center. The alien transmission came through on all frequencies simultaneously, a clear display of their technological dominance. The image that appeared was both beautiful and intimidating. Admiral Crix of the Zephyrian Empire stood nearly 8 feet tall, his elongated form covered in what appeared to be living metal. His forearms moved with fluid grace, and his large, dark eyes held an unmistakable expression of superiority. "Primitive inhabitants of the third planet," Admiral Crix began, his voice carrying a musical quality that somehow made his words even more condescending. "I am Admiral Crix, Supreme Commander of the 47th Conquest Fleet. Your world has been selected for integration into the Zephyrian Empire." President Martinez stepped forward, her face calm despite the circumstances. "Welcome to Earth, Admiral. We're always interested in peaceful contact with other species. Perhaps we can discuss." "There is nothing to discuss," Crix interrupted, his forearms spreading wide in what humans would later learn was a gesture of dismissal. "Your species has achieved basic spaceflight, primitive nuclear fusion, and crude quantum computers. By Zephyrian standards, you are barely past the Stone Age." The holographic display shifted, showing images of human cities, spacecraft, and military installations. But the way they were presented made everything look pathetically outdated. The International Space Station appeared as a crude collection of metal tubes. Earth's most advanced fighters looked like toys compared to the sleek Zephyrian vessels. "Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields," Admiral Crix continued. "Your fastest ships move like crawling insects compared to our vessels. Your most powerful computers process information at a rate that amuses our children. You have 2 choices: submit willingly and serve as a labor force, or resist and be conquered anyway." Dr. James Morrison, Earth's leading xenobiologist, stepped forward. "Admiral, surely 2 intelligent species can find common ground. What does your empire gain from conquest that it couldn't achieve through cooperation?" Crix's laugh was like wind chimes in a hurricane. "Cooperation implies equality, primitive one. The Zephyrian Empire has conquered 312 worlds. Each species initially believed they had something unique to offer. Each learned otherwise. Your planet possesses resources we require and occupies a strategic position in this spiral arm. Your species will serve, or it will be replaced." The transmission shifted to show the Zephyrian fleet in action against other worlds. Cities that resisted were simply erased by beams of energy that seemed to unmake matter itself. Ships that tried to fight were disabled with weapons that turned their own electronics against them. It was a masterclass in technological dominance. "You have 72 of your planetary rotations to prepare your surrender," Admiral Crix announced. Use this time wisely. Study our capabilities. Understand the futility of resistance. When we return, those who cooperate will be granted laborer status. Those who resist will serve as examples. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Sarah looked around at the faces of Earth's leaders and saw fear, anger, and something else, the stubborn determination that had carried humanity from caves to stars. Options. President Martinez asked quietly. General Patterson, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, spoke first. Military resistance appears impossible. Their shields can't be penetrated by our weapons, and they've demonstrated the ability to disable our electronics at range. Any conventional assault would be suicide. Dr. Morrison cleared his throat. There might be something they've overlooked. During the transmission, I noticed several things about their technology. It's incredibly advanced, but it follows predictable patterns. Their shields pulse at regular intervals. Their energy weapons have specific wavelengths. Their ships seem to rely heavily on automated systems. Sarah found herself speaking before she realized it. They've made one critical error, haven't they? They've shown us everything. Every weapon, every capability, every tactical doctrine. They're so confident in their superiority that they've given us a complete intelligence briefing. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Dr. Chunway, Sarah's father and head of the Advanced Technology Division, stepped out of the shadows where he had been quietly observing. Protocol 7 is active, he said simply. Every military officer in the room straightened. Protocol 7 was the most classified project in human history. Not even most world leaders knew its full scope. It was humanity's ultimate contingency plan, designed not for any specific threat, but for the unthinkable one. 72 hours, President Martinez said. That's not much time. It's enough, Sarah replied, her voice carrying a confidence she was still building. They've studied our public technology, our obvious capabilities, but they haven't studied us. They don't understand what makes humans dangerous. Admiral Crix and his fleet took position around Earth, establishing a perfect blockade. Their ships hung in space like metallic gods, their weapons pointed at every major population center. Smaller vessels began detailed scans of the planet, cataloging resources and population centers with ruthless efficiency. On Earth, humanity appeared to be preparing for surrender. Television broadcasts showed world leaders calling for calm and cooperation. Military forces were standing down, their weapons powered down in apparent acceptance of defeat. Cities continued their daily routines, with only the occasional glimpse skyward at the alien presence. But in hidden facilities around the globe, Protocol 7 was reaching full activation. Dr. Chenwei worked with teams of engineers and scientists who had spent their careers preparing for scenarios that seemed impossible. The Zephyrian technology was advanced, but it was still technology, and humans had become very good at understanding, adapting, and improving technology. Their shields operate on a rotating frequency matrix, Dr. Lisa Park reported from the Quantum Research Lab. It's elegant, but it follows mathematical principles we can predict. The rotation has a brief synchronization point every 4.7 seconds where all frequencies align. In another facility, Commander Jake Walsh studied the tactical data with growing excitement. Their formations are perfect for facing conventional threats, but they assume all attacks will come from outside their perimeter. They've never faced an enemy that could strike from within their own ranks. Sarah stood in the center of it all, coordinating the desperate preparations. Around her, the greatest minds of humanity worked with a focus that bordered on obsession. They had been given the ultimate challenge, and humans had never been good at backing down from challenges. Dr. Morrison made perhaps the most important discovery. Their communication system relies on quantum entanglement networks. It's instantaneous, across any distance, but it also means every ship is connected to every other ship. If we could access that network, we could turn their own coordination against them, Sarah finished. The plan was insane, impossible, and completely human. In its audacity, asterisk. As the 72-hour deadline approached, Admiral Crix sent another message. This time, it was broadcast to every screen and speaker on Earth simultaneously, demonstrating his fleet's complete control over human communication networks. Inhabitants of Earth, his musical voice resonated across the planet. Your time grows short. We have analyzed your responses and find them satisfactory. Your leaders have shown wisdom in accepting the inevitable. Tomorrow, you will formally surrender, and your integration into the Empire will begin. The transmission showed images of other conquered worlds now serving the Zephyrian Empire. The conquered species worked in vast industrial complexes, their creativity and culture slowly dying under the weight of imperial efficiency. It was meant to be reassuring, showing Earth's future as servants of a benevolent empire. But Sarah saw something else in those images. She saw species that had never learned to fight dirty, had never developed the desperate ingenuity that came from centuries of warfare against their own kind. These species had advanced technology, but they had never learned to make do with scraps, had never turned defeat into victory through pure, stubborn refusal to surrender. "Admiral," she whispered to the silent transmission, "you have no idea what power really looks like." The final preparations for Protocol 7 entered their last phase. Around the globe, hidden transmitters powered up, modified satellites adjusted, their positions, and in facilities that officially didn't exist, humans prepared to show the galaxy what their species was really capable of when their backs were against the wall. The Zephyrian fleet hung in space, confident and beautiful and completely unprepared for what was about to hit them. They had conquered 312 worlds, but they had never faced humanity. They had never faced a species that treated impossible odds as a personal insult. The countdown began. In 18 hours, Admiral Crix would receive his answer. And he was going to discover that humans had a very different definition of surrender than he expected. Asterisk, the human response to the surrender ceremony was scheduled for noon, Greenwich Mean Time. Admiral Crix's flagship, a massive vessel called the Inevitable Victory, took position directly above the United Nations building. Smaller Zephyrian ships hovered over every major city, their weapons aimed at the population centers below. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the UN General Assembly, wearing her dress uniform and carrying what appeared to be humanity's formal surrender. Documents around her, world leaders sat in apparent defeat, their faces showing resignation and fear. The assembled media captured every moment, broadcasting humanity's submission to the stars. Admiral Crix materialized in the center of the assembly through an impressive holographic projection, his four arms spread wide in a gesture of magnanimous victory. "Inhabitants of Earth," he began, his voice carrying that same musical superiority. "Today marks the end of your independence and the beginning of your service to a greater purpose. Your primitive civilization will be preserved as a historical curiosity, while your species contributes to the Empire's glory." President Martinez rose slowly, her movements conveying defeat. "Admiral Crix, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, We, ... double quotes. She paused, as if struggling with the words. We have prepared our response. She nodded to Sarah, who stepped forward with a tablet containing humanity's answer. But instead of surrender documents, she began to read something entirely different. Admiral Crix, we have studied your demands and your capabilities. We have observed your technology and your methods, and we have reached a conclusion. Sarah's voice grew stronger with each word. Humanity respectfully declines your offer. The Zephyrian admirals for arms folded in apparent amusement. Child, you seem to misunderstand the nature of our relationship. This was not an offer. This was an inevitability. Observe. The holographic display showed the Zephyrian fleet powering up their weapons. Energy readings climbed toward lethal levels. The demonstration was designed to show humanity the futility of resistance. Before you make any irreversible decisions, Sarah continued calmly, you might want to check your ship's internal systems. Admiral Crix's expression shifted slightly. In the background of his projection, other Zephyrians began to move with urgent purpose. Warning lights began flashing in the pristine Zephyrian control centers. What trickery is this? Crix demanded. Dr. Chenwei stepped forward, his elderly face showing a predator's smile. No trickery, Admiral, just human engineering. You see, when you demonstrated your capabilities, you made a critical error. You showed us everything, including the quantum entanglement frequency your ships use for communication. The holographic displays in the UN assembly came alive, showing technical readouts from inside the Zephyrian ships. Human technicians had not only accessed the alien communication network, they had improved it. Impossible, Admiral Crix stated. Flatly, our encryption is mathematical perfection. No species has ever No species has ever been human, Dr. Morrison interrupted. We've had mathematicians working on impossible problems for centuries. We turned theoretical physics into weapons of war. We split atoms and bent space-time because someone told us it couldn't be done. Around the globe, Protocol 7 reached full activation. The Zephyrian ships, so confident in their technological superiority, began to experience cascading system failures. But these weren't destructive failures designed to harm. They were elegant redirections that turned the aliens' own technology against them. Commander Walsh's voice came through the communication system from the hidden military command center. Admiral Crix, you mentioned that you've conquered 312 worlds. We've been studying your tactical patterns from those conquests. You're very good at fighting civilizations that play by your rules. But humans wrote our own rules a long time ago. The Zephyrian fleet found their perfect formations disrupted as their own navigation. Systems began suggesting optimizations that were actually humanized tactical maneuvers. Ships that had moved in perfect coordination for millennia suddenly found themselves awkwardly positioned, their weapons pointing away from their targets. Your species relies on technological superiority, Sarah continued, her voice now carrying the confidence of someone holding all the cards. But you've never faced a species that got to space by strapping themselves to controlled explosions. You've never conquered a world where the inhabitants regularly jumped out of perfectly good aircraft for entertainment. The most devastating part of Protocol 7 activated. Dr. Park's quantum research team had done more than just access the Zephyrian communication network. They had learned to speak its language. The alien ships began receiving new programming, updates that their own systems accepted as legitimate. Admiral Crix watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet began to dance to humanity's tune. Weapons, systems powered down at precisely calculated intervals, Shield harmonics shifted to frequencies that made them vulnerable to modified human weapons. Most embarrassingly, several ships began playing human music on their communication channels. "This is impossible," Crix repeated, his musical voice now carrying notes of panic. "Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your computers are primitive toys." President Martinez stood again, but this time her posture radiated strength rather than submission. "Admiral, you made the same mistake that many others have made throughout human history. You confused technology with intelligence, power with wisdom, superiority with strength." The demonstration continued as human-modified systems began to show the Zephyrian fleet exactly how outmatched they were. The aliens found their perfect formations turned into tactical nightmares. Their advanced weapons became liabilities as humans demonstrated the ability to turn them on and off at will. Their beautiful ships became flying examples of human ingenuity. "You want to know what makes humans different?" Sarah asked, approaching the flickering hologram of Admiral Crix. "We don't just adapt to our environment, we remake it. We don't just use tools, we become them. And when someone tells us something is impossible, we take it as a personal challenge." Dr. Chen Wei activated the final phase of the demonstration. The Zephyrian flagship, the mighty inevitable victory, began to broadcast something that had never been heard before in 312 conquests: human laughter. The sound echoed through every ship in the fleet as their own communication systems carried the message. "We could have destroyed your fleet," Sarah continued as the laughter faded. "We could have turned your ships into expanding clouds of debris. But that's not power. That's just destruction. Real power is having the ability to destroy your enemies and choosing to show them a better way instead." Admiral Crix's form flickered as his ship's systems struggled with the human modifications. What do you want?" President Martinez stepped forward. "We want you to leave. Take your fleet and go home. Tell the galaxy that Earth is protected not by superior technology, but by superior determination. Tell them that humans are not available for conquest, but they are available for friendship." "And if we refuse?" Admiral Crix asked, though his voice suggested he already knew the answer. Commander Walsh's voice came through the speakers again. "Then you'll learn what 312 other species never had to teach you. You'll learn what happens when humans stop playing defense and start playing offense. We've been studying your empire, Admiral. We know where your core worlds are. We know how your society functions. And we know exactly how to take it apart piece by piece if we have to." The threat hung in the air like a blade. The Zephyrian Empire had never faced a species that could threaten them on their home territory. They had never encountered an enemy that could turn their own technology against them. They had certainly never met a species that could do it all. While laughing, Admiral Crix was silent for long moments, his advanced mind processing the implications. Finally, he spoke. "Your species. You're not like the others we've encountered." "No," Sarah agreed. "We're not. We're stubborn, we're crazy, and we absolutely refuse to accept that anything is impossible. We turned rocks into computers, figured out how to fly by watching birds, and put footprints on our moon with technology less advanced than a modern toaster." "Why?" Crix asked, and for the first time, his voice carried genuine curiosity rather than superiority. "Why do you struggle so hard? Why not accept a simpler existence under our protection?" Dr. Morrison smiled. "Because that's not who we are. Humans don't seek comfort, we seek challenge. We don't want to be protected, we want to be free. and we've never, in our entire history, let anyone tell us what we can and cannot do. The Zephyrian fleet began to disengage from Earth orbit, their systems slowly returning to normal as the humans demonstrated their good faith by withdrawing their modifications. But the message had been sent and received clearly. Admiral Crix's form stabilized as his ship's systems returned to Zephyrian control. This encounter will be studied extensively. Your species has given us much to consider. Good, President Martinez replied. And, Admiral, the next time your empire encounters a species you're thinking about conquering, remember what you learned here. Remember that true strength isn't about having the biggest weapons or the fastest ships. True strength is about having the courage to stand up for what you believe in, no matter the odds. The Zephyrian fleet departed Earth space with a grace that somehow managed to convey respect rather than retreat. As the last alien ship disappeared into hyperspace, the world erupted in celebration. Humanity had faced its greatest test and emerged not just victorious, but stronger. Sarah stood at the window of the UN building, watching the stars where humanity's first interstellar victory had been won not through superior firepower, but through superior human nature. Think they'll be back? Commander Walsh asked. Joining her at the window, Sarah smiled. The same predator's grin her father had worn during the crisis. If they are, they'll find us ready, and they'll find that humans learn from every encounter. Next time, we won't need 72 hours to prepare. We'll be ready from the moment they appear. Above them, the stars held infinite possibilities and infinite challenges. And somewhere among those stars, the Zephyrian Empire was learning that the galaxy had just become a much more interesting place. The message had been sent across all known space. Earth was protected, not by superior technology or overwhelming force, but by something far more dangerous: human determination, human ingenuity, and the unbreakable human spirit that turned every impossible challenge into just another problem to solve. The age of humanity had begun. Asterisk.